Hey guys, Simon Bryson here, and today we're going to talk about exactly how to invest your money automatically for beginners without having to do a ton of work. Now, this video right here is for people that basically want to do everything automatically and not worry about any massive fees, and also have a very predictable income coming in every single year, and also a very predictable profit without having to worry about like, hey, I'm going to spend 8 hours every single day trying to figure out exactly what the best stock out there in the market actually is. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how I do it, how I invest into the market, how much money I invest, and with what app or also what brokerage account I actually use to actually invest. Obviously, in this video, I'm going to be breaking down all the questions and going over all the details. But if you have any questions, just comment down below and let me know, and I'll comment back down to you and also answer your questions. And by the way, if you're new here, I post videos on this channel every single day. So make sure also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. And on top of that, also destroy the like button. Now, the first thing I want to go into detail about is basically how you want to not invest your money automatically. And I see a lot of people actually doing this, and what they do is basically, well, Tommy, I have somebody walk my dog, I have somebody basically fix my car. Well, why don't I just hire a financial advisor or a planner, or for example, invest my money into a highly traded mutual fund to try to have a professional basically try to beat the market every single year for me. And to be honest with you, that sounds like a pretty good idea until you do the math behind all the fees and what it's actually costing you. But the main thing is that basically, whenever you have a financial advisor, you want to ask them this one question. That's basically, hey, are you a fiduciary? And if they say yes or no, it's going to greatly affect the way they actually interact with you. Now, fiduciary, although that word is very difficult to spell, in my opinion, my professional opinion here, the answer is actually very simple to understand. Now, fiduciary is basically someone that does everything they do, always thinking about your best interests in mind. So everything they do has to be in some way to actually benefit you. Now, you might say, Tommy, that sounds pretty fair because basically I pay them around 1 to 2% of my portfolio, so they should do everything in their power to basically have me profit or benefit from it, right? Fiduciary. However, not every single financial advisor out there is actually a fiduciary, meaning that a lot of them are just basically salesmen, okay? They just want to sell you, for example, some insurance and also charge you that commission of 1 to 2% every single year, and that's how they make the bulk of their money. Now, you might say, Tommy, 1 to 2% every single year is not that bad because basically my financial advisor, or for example, my very fancy mutual fund, is trying to beat the market every single year. However, if you guys don't know this, the average mutual fund basically does not beat the market every single year. And after all the fees they actually charge you, in reality, you actually end up underperforming the market. And by the way, this is a direct quote from Warren Buffett himself, and here it is right here, just so you guys can see it. So screenshot this quote right here and make it your business never to go out there and get a financial advisor that wants to charge you a percentage of your portfolio, or basically a mutual fund that wants to trade back and forth and charge you a ton of money in fees every single year. Now, just to drive this point even more, I want to break down exactly what a 1 to 2% fee actually means when it comes to your portfolio value. Now, say for example, you said, well, Tommy, what I want to do is invest into an index fund. Now, you're doing this through a very expensive mutual fund, or for example, your financial advisor is doing this for you, right? Because these people are the professionals and they know everything that's best for your money. However, here's the problem with that, okay? Because basically, historically, the S&P 500, that index fund right there with the top 500 companies in America, basically has returned around 7% every single year. Now, 7%, here it is. Here's your profit every single year. However, you can't forget that, hey, Uncle Sam taxes is going to charge you around 2% every single year, right? So not that bad at all. Eventually, you'll have to pay that tax. On top of that, you have to think about like, hey, well, what about inflation? Well, inflation is going to be around 2% also every single year. So now you're left with 3%. But guess what? Your financial advisor, or for example, your fancy mutual fund, is also going to charge you between 1% or in some cases even 2%. So you're left with either 1% or 2%. And the idea is, okay, over 10 to 40 years, that financial advisor, or for example, that fancy mutual fund, can end up costing you around 30% of your actual portfolio value. And because of compound interest, basically every dollar you invest today at a 7% interest rate is going to be worth around $15 tomorrow in like 40 years or so. The answer is that money they charge you in fees could have been invested and could have made you a ton more money. But that is the real reason I want you at all costs, okay, to avoid investing money with anyone that's trying to charge you 1 to 2%. The minimum, the maximum you should pay for this is basically between 0.2% to 0.5%, and that is me just pushing it, okay? Overall, you don't need to pay a ton of money in fees when it comes to your investments, and the best platform to do this is basically with Vanguard. Vanguard literally has the lowest fees like in the entire investment industry, and it's because they control over $6.1 trillion in assets. So by charging you 0.2%, that's a ton of money for them, but also is saving you a ton of money compared to what everyone else is actually charging you. So overall, if you want to hire a financial advisor or have a mutual fund, just make sure that mutual fund is with Vanguard and they're not charging you a ton of money on that fee or that expense ratio every single year. However, if you want to get a financial advisor still, the idea is make sure they're charging you a flat fee, and on top of that, make sure they are also a fiduciary. That way you know everything they do is always going to be legally bound by your best interest, and if it's not, you can always sue, okay? But that is the entire idea, and that is the number one way that you do not want to invest. Again, you don't want to have a financial advisor or a planner that charges you between 1 to 2% today, but in the end, it'll be like 30%. And you don't want to have a mutual fund that basically is trading back and forth and also costing you in taxes, and on top of that, charging you around 1% every single year. The answer is, over time, that is not actually outperforming the market, is actually underperforming the market based on all the data that's actually out there. Now, number 2. Here is the actual way you actually want to go out there and invest your money to actually automatically have it do all the work for you and basically not cost you as much money as doing it with a financial advisor or, for example, a fancy mutual fund. Now, the idea is that what you basically want, most people want, is basically they want to invest their money. They don't want to do a lot of work, and they want to check on it every single month to see exactly how it's doing, how it's performing, but you're basically just investing for the long run, okay? Now, to do this perfectly, the best way to do it is by investing into ETFs or, for example, a low-cost mutual fund or into an index fund. That's the entire idea. However, although Vanguard is pretty solid as a whole as an investment platform, is actually pretty expensive because basically, if you don't have a lot of money and you have to buy, for example, one share of that ETF, it might cost like $250 and you might not have all that money. So the way I actually do this today is by investing, for example, with an app called Acorns, and that way it allows me to invest into those Vanguard ETFs, but not by buying the whole share, but by buying just a little piece of it, and that way I can invest not with $1,000 or $10,000, but with basically $5 or $10 or $20. But the point is, I don't need to have a massive amount to actually get started investing. And by the way, when I first started using Acorns, a financial app, I started with around $7.80. So it doesn't take a lot of money. But if you do have a lot of money in your pocket, you can always just invest directly with Vanguard. However, if you want to use Acorns, which is what I use to invest automatically, here is how you actually automate the entire thing, okay? The idea is, the first thing you want to do is you want to pick a percentage of your paycheck that you actually want to invest every single time you get paid. Not at the end of the month, not at the end of the year, no. Every time you get paid, you want to have this money deducted, and that way you don't think about it whatsoever. Because if you do, then you might spend that money on Starbucks or, for example, buying some avocado toast, and you don't want to do that, okay? So the idea is I recommend investing between 10 to 20% of your paycheck automatically every time you actually get paid. The minimum is 10%, okay? When you take 10% of your check, trust me, you won't feel it and you will get used to it, and you won't even feel like you're actually missing anything whatsoever. Now, here's how the app Acorns actually work. I'm gonna show you guys right now live. So when you sign up, it's going to look exactly like this, but instead of saying good morning, Tommy, it's going to be saying good morning and obviously your name. So you want to go basically to invest for your future right down there. And what you want to do is you want to do three things. The first thing is you want to pick your portfolio. Right now, my portfolio is called moderately aggressive. And when you click it, it's going to show you exactly what I invest into, okay? Now, the idea is I invest into government bonds, 10% of my money goes into that. I also invest into corporate bonds, 10% goes into that. I also invest into large companies in the US. By the way, that's basically the index fund that I told you about, the S&P 500 by Vanguard. On top of that, I also do small cap companies, but not that much because basically it's only 14% because basically those companies are a little bit more risky. And I also invest into emerging stocks, companies are just like coming up. And I also invest into real estate stock, and lastly, also large international companies. That way, if the US market actually goes down, I still have investments outside of it, and everything kind of balances out just like that. And that is my goal. However, you also have, for example, conservative, where you actually invest all your money into bonds, or for example, super aggressive, when you invest all your money into ETFs only focus on stocks. That's very risky. I recommend if you're below, for example, 35 or 40 years old, you go with what I do, which is called basically moderately aggressive. 20% into bonds and also 80% into ETF stocks, okay? By the way, this portfolio is very well diversified, okay? Very well diversified. On top of that, the second thing you want to do is basically you want to go to roundup settings and you want to turn this on. Now, basically what this means is that every single time you use, for example, your credit card or your debit card is going to round up to the nearest dollar and invest that money automatically into your investment. So for example, if you spent $1.25, it's going to take 75 cents and basically go ahead and invest it for you. And that way, everything is also done automatically. And every time you actually go out there and spend money, you're also investing money for the future. Like I said before, guys, okay, every dollar you invest today at a 7% interest rate, in 40 years or so, it'll be worth like 15 bucks. So every single penny actually counts, okay? And that is the point. And the third thing you basically want to do is you want to turn on recurring investments. Now, for example, if you're making 500 bucks every single week from your paycheck, the idea is you want to take between 10% to 20% and automatically invest that money. So you want to go right here, click the amount, and in this case, if you're making, for example, 500 times 10% is around 50 bucks, okay? So you want to take $50 and set as recurring. And if you're basically getting paid every single Friday, you want to have it done every single Friday also. And that way the money is taken automatically. And again, you can set it, for example, to daily, to weekly, or even, for example, to monthly, okay? And that is the whole idea. But I highly recommend you do it every time you get paid. And that way everything is done automatically and also seamlessly. And just to show you guys, okay, my portfolio right now is up around 10.55%. And as you guys know, the stock market took a huge dip, and even during March, like the peak of like the entire tragedy, and guess what? I was still making money because again, my portfolio is highly balancing. And by investing, for example, 50 bucks, which is around like $2,600 a year, guess what? In 40 years, that's going to be almost a $500,000 you invested just by investing 50 bucks every single week. So again, every dollar counts. And by the way, also with the Acorns app, you can also make an account for your kids, and on top of that, you can even make a Roth IRA with them also by investing like $5 every time you get paid also, okay? So you can do everything in this app right here. But if you do have, for example, a 401k and your employer is matching it, well, you want to talk to the HR department in your job and basically make sure you're actually maximizing it to its full capacity, because basically you're getting free money by having your employer match whatever money you actually put into your 401k account. But lastly, okay guys, if you want to do this like a pro and have everything work automatically, I recommend you have two separate bank accounts, okay? One bank account is going to be for receiving your direct deposit, okay? And then you want to basically have an external bank account to basically have that to actually be your spending check-ins account. So basically, whenever you get paid on Fridays, this account is going to basically request around 80% of your money, and it's going to be put in there. And then the Acorns account can basically grab 20% of that money without having to worry about like, hey, I accidentally had to pay for this bill and now I don't have enough, so now there's a problem. The answer is no. Have two check-ins accounts, and that way everything is done separately. And by the way, I recommend getting, for example, Vero Bank, SoFi Bank, and that way basically they're all online banks. And guess what? By using SoFi Bank, there are no fees. By using Varo Bank, there are also no fees. Again, that's Varo Money and also SoFi Money, no fees, and also a pretty high interest rate. And that way, you don't have to worry about like, hey, I don't have enough money in here. And there's also no overdraft fees, okay? So that way you don't have to worry about that whatsoever, okay? So I highly recommend these checkings accounts right here. And don't worry, I'm also gonna put the links down below to Varo and also SoFi Money, and that way you know exactly where the apps actually are and how to download them. And now guys, number 3 is that they're basically 2 ways to actually do this automatic investing strategy. And the idea is, okay, you can either do it in a normal way or, for example, in an extreme way. Now, the normal way is basically by investing 10 to 20%, and in 40 years, you'll have, for example, investing $50, you'll have around $500,000, okay, which is awesome if you ask me. Now, the idea is by doing it the normal way, 10 to 20% here and there, you won't actually miss that money. Now, this works for people that basically love their jobs and don't plan on ever quitting them whatsoever, because basically you're going to have your job forever, you love it, you like it, and you just want to invest money and do that automatically just to make sure you have extra money for retirement. However, the extreme way is for people that basically want to retire early and have financial freedom a lot earlier. And you're going to be investing between 50 to 75% of your money. And in 20 years or so, or 10 years or so, depending on how much you invest in, you're going to be able to actually retire and have financial freedom. However, tell me, which one should I do? The idea is that there is no right or wrong answer. It just depends on what your goals are. If you love your job, just do it the normal way and live a pretty good life. If you want to be an extremist and basically invest a ton of money and retire early, the answer is you can also do that. But again, it all depends on you and what you actually want. But what you basically want to do in the end is just get started investing, okay? 10 to 20% is my recommendation. If you want to be extreme, do 50 to 75%. But again, that is very hard, very difficult, and you will feel that money missing, okay? That is the entire point. And it will take a long time still, so be very careful. And you also want to focus on increasing your income. And I'll also make videos later on about, hey, what are the best jobs out there and side hustles to basically try to increase your income. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you're notified, so when I post those videos, you actually get updated. And by the way, guys, the biggest challenge for this is going to be ignoring the short-term stock market and also staying patient and realizing that, hey, all the data shows that basically by investing like this, I'm going to get around like 7% every single year. So I don't care about the short term. I care about the long term, okay? So just focus on that and you'll be fine. But overall, guys, that's about it for this video. Comment down below and let me know, was this video actually helpful? And if you have any questions, comment down below and I'll also answer them in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Smash the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. And if you want to talk to me one-on-one, uno, just DM me on Instagram, Tiny Bryson. And before I go, if you want to watch another video on the basics of investing, well, watch this video right here. Click my picture now. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.